Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. A video making the rounds on social media is prompting serious concern about interpersonal violence among students. Two young males can be seen engaged in a tussle. As they tackle each other, one of the boys is slammed to the ground, at which point other students erupt in excited outbursts, egging on their schoolmates. The video, although disturbing, has been used as comedy among the student body. Music has been added to the video, helping the content to go viral. The National Students' Council says the video will be discussed by the executive in order to provide a meaningful response that can put forward recommendations to deal with the issue of conflict resolution and unfortunate incidents of violence in schools. Research has long shown that schools play a crucial role when it comes to preventing and responding to violence. In 2019, UNICEF's Preventing School-Based Violence booklet highlighted that life skills taught in violence prevention, such as communication, managing emotions, resolving conflicts, and solving problems, are the same skills that can help children succeed in school and that can protect against other issues that affect learning, such as alcohol and drug use. Reducing violence and its negative consequences, for example, absenteeism, lack of concentration, or school dropout, can have positive consequences on learning. Experiencing violence can also be a reason for demonstrating challenging behavior, which hinders students' learning. Following news of homicide number 20, veteran journalist and social commentator Earl Bousquet says a lot more needs to be done to address crime in society. He says it is one thing to tell youth they need to practice conflict resolution, but that cannot be done unless it is taught.
St. Lucia has recorded 20 homicides for the year 2021. Majority of the victims of this year's violent killings have been youth. Concerns are being raised that youth are not practicing conflict resolution and are resorting to violent means to dealing with all issues which may rise. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force and Rise St. Lucia are constantly working on community-based initiatives that are geared at engaging youth positively and steering them away from a life of crime. Following St. Lucia's 20th homicide, which took place in Trualu Dennery, social commentator Earl Bousquet says in some instances, youth are indoctrinated into a life of crime.
We have been complaining about young people being the majority involved in crime, particularly murder, at this point in time. It's not good. From generation to generation, government to government, we complain about it. But what are we doing? The only thing we're doing is saying, it seems to me, that the young people are unwilling and unable to deal with conflict resolution. But these are young people whose parents grew up getting guns as toys. We got guns as toys until we got to a stage where we understood the need to move from guns to toys. But there are no more guns and toys as toys, but they're online.
However, he says society is to blame as they are yet to approach crime holistically. The president of the National Principals Association recently shared similar sentiments, urging all social institutions to come together to help create well-rounded individuals. Bousquet is of the belief that the older generation have failed to assist their youth with acquiring proper conflict resolution skills.
I think the problem has been that we, the older folks, those who are blaming the younger people, have been too lazy to do what needs to be done, to find the ways and means and the language to explain what conflict resolution really means. It still is just a phrase to the people who we are speaking to, because we try to speak down to them, we try to impose the sense of conflict resolution on them without going that extra step of showing them the consequences of not applying conflict resolution.
How does he propose the crime situation be resolved? He says officials and the older generation need to converse with youth and try to understand the plight of youth.
Prepare to listen to what they will have to say and not to tell them that it is impossible, because in us telling them resort to conflict resolution, they see that as impossible. How do you resolve a conflict when somebody is coming after you with a gun? So let's sit with them and find out how do you make what we call conflict resolution something that will be helpful to you. Everybody who dies leaves somebody who wants to pay for that death. So I think the answer is to not just talk down to young people, but to sit down with them, talk across the table at the same level, across eye to eye, mouth to mouth, head to head, but tete-a-tete, instead of preaching from a high horse.
There have been lots of concern from various sectors of society in relation to crime, particularly given the circumstances that are being faced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force say they are on the ground to ensure they nip all suspected criminal activity in the bud. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Today, Tuesday, the 11th of May 2021, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation of 10 new cases of COVID-19. This from a batch of 184 samples. The contact tracing for these new cases is underway. Confirmation was also received of the recovery of 12 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19, bringing the total number of active cases to 147. At present, 2 of the active cases are requiring critical care at the respiratory hospital. The new cases bring the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 4,700. In other news, amid increased positive cases of COVID-19, the Department of Health and Education are assuring the public that the COVID-19 situation is being managed appropriately, particularly among the student population. The officials say that while the statistics are a cause for concern, the ministries will do their part to ensure the level of transmission remains low.
While children under the age of 18 present with mild forms of COVID-19 and represent about 8 to 9% of all cases globally, locally, it accounts for 9.5% of St. Lucia's positive cases. Although the World Health Organization reports few outbreaks in schools and believe that the spread of COVID-19 in school settings is very limited, the Department of Health strives to ensure that children remain in safe and healthy environments. Recent increased numbers of cases have raised concerns for the Ministry of Health, with breaches to quarantine and isolation at the forefront.
Persons who have been placed in quarantine are asked to adhere to the quarantine measures as explained by the public health experts. Persons in the same household as a confirmed case of COVID-19 should not leave their homes to go to work or to school. Instead, they should get tested to determine their COVID-19 status. Persons who have been tested for COVID-19 should also remain home until the result of their test is given to them and await further guidance by public health officials. We have noted that persons are continuing to not adhere to the COVID-19 policies. Persons are not adhering to quarantine, and this represents a significant problem in terms of managing COVID-19 on island.
The Chief Education Officer, Dr. Fiona Philip-Meyer, says that while the ministry is pleased with schools reopening so far, the continued management of the pandemic is critical to being able to deliver quality education.
We note that within the education system, we have to manage COVID-19 cases as per all other sectors. And so there are great responsibilities attached to adults in particular. The statistics as per the Department of Health speak to a significant number of adults between the age of 24 to 49 being impacted by the COVID-19. Many of those adults are parents, they're staff members, they're individuals who work within various sectors. And so we encourage our adults to take on the greatest responsibility in terms of protecting and keeping our children safe.
Dr. Francois is convinced that the spread can be managed effectively.
We do expect that the different sectors would be affected. We do expect to have cases in schools, in banks, in the hotels. We do have community transmission. However, together, using the public health measures, cover your cough, hand hygiene, maintain the 6-foot distance, we expect that we would be able to bring the levels within the community down to a satisfactory level.
Dr. Meyer applauds the efforts of the students for practicing the COVID-19 protocols and implores adults to set the example. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
The Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, has made available to students a broad list of topics that will be covered in this year's CSEC examinations. A former principal and a representative of the National Students' Council are lauding CXC for such an initiative amid the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. They both, however, have advised students that this is not a panacea.
The Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, in response to the needs of its stakeholders amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19, has provided the main areas of study to be used as a guide in preparing for the Paper 2 and Paper 3 examinations scheduled for June and July 2021. In 2020, the CXC CSEC exam encompassed solely multiple-choice questions. Former principal of the St. Mary's College, Rowan Sion, was not keen on these changes and explained if CXC had to continuously modify the structure of its exams, the credibility and efficacy of the exams are at risk. This time around, Sion, however, is of the view that such an initiative will prove very beneficial.
I think this is useful simply because it does not mean the students will have any less knowledge of the subject areas per se, because they would have studied, if they're preparing for the exam since Form 4, as they should have been, they would have been studying the whole syllabus anyway. It's only that now that the exam is approaching, it's about a month away now, it's only at this stage that they can focus on these specific areas. So I guess it's a win-win accommodation.
The National Students' Council says CXC must be lauded for listening to the pleas of students as well as understanding the immense stress that students are under and making strides to assist them during such an undoubtedly difficult period in their lives. The Public Relations Officer of the NSC, Jean-Luc Constantine, encouraged students to make maximum use of the grace being extended.
As it stands, the release of these topics will be beneficial to many of us in the upcoming weeks. But our students must be reminded that with every right comes responsibility, and this guidance that has been given by CXC can only bring us so far. So it is imperative that we all, as students, acknowledge and fulfill our responsibilities.
Both the former principal and the NSC PRO underscored the importance of students' responsibility despite the changes made. Sion explained that despite the broad topics being released, comprehensive knowledge of the syllabus is critical in preparation for CXC examinations, as the Paper 1 component of the exams will assess the entire syllabus.
This is only for the Paper 2, which is the longer paper in terms of the writing and so on. The multiple choice exam is still covering the entire syllabus. So it doesn't mean they're going to escape totally with the not studying the whole syllabus. But at least for that one paper, they can approach it with the knowledge that the questions they're going to answer will be focusing on a smaller range of topics.
Students are being encouraged to ensure adequate preparation for their exams. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonza.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. We'll be right back.